This week's best MMA bets, we're talking UFC Vegas 48 and Bellator 274, the betting breakdown for both cards. Guys, smash that like button if you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn those post notifications on, and share the video as well. We're going to cover the locks of the night, dogs of the night, props, and we'll finish out with the parlays. Let's jump right into the locks of the night section here for both of these cards. We'll first run through UFC and then we'll jump over to the Bellator locks. My first lock of the night, I really like Jamal Hill to win against Johnny Walker. He's sitting around the minus 250 money line range. I feel like the value there is a little bit wide and I wish the line was closer. It's crazy that Walker was like that prospect to be the next guy and now he's a plus 200 underdog against Jamal Hill. I don't know. It's just interesting to see how the bookies have really turned on him. I think the line should be closer here, but I do feel like Hill is a lock. Stylistically, he matches up well. I think he's going to find counter strikes open. And I like that southpaw stance too for Hill. The money line play is minus 250, but the KO prop minus 130. It's a lock. It's a confident pick. But yeah, I will agree, not the greatest value. Let's keep running though. The next lock of the night, financially speaking, if you're throwing money line, is a similar situation. It's Kyle Dawkins at minus 250 to win against Jamie Pickett. But there's value on the prop side in this one. Plus 310 submission prop for Kyle Dawkins. I believe it's worth a stab for a chance. I think he could get it done by submission. I like Kyle Dawkins definitely to beat Jamie Pickett. I think Hill and Dawkins both are solid locks. Some real confidence here and proven guys, I feel. Dawkins, I think he matches up well against Jamie Pickett. I like him by submission. He's the second of the locks of the night. The third lock of the night, I'm going to be honest with you, the value money line is not good on this one. It's Jonathan Pierce minus 330. It's worse than the other two, but it's a plus 115 win inside the distance. He fights Christian Rodriguez, who makes his UFC debut on like a week's notice. Jonathan Pierce should be able to dominate this kid. I expect him to bully him a bit in the octagon and work towards a second or third round stoppage. I feel like the value at plus 115 inside the distance wouldn't be a bad bet, but I'd understand people staying away from it. So of course, like some of these locks value isn't fantastic, but I still think there's value talking about it. The next one is going to be Chad Anheliger. He's sitting at minus 240 money line, but you can find value in the prop here, plus 120 inside the distance. I think he definitely stops Jesse Strader here. Strader sitting around plus 200 as a dog. I feel like Anheliger runs through him. I don't necessarily see this fight as being all that competitive from what I've seen. I don't know if I would even go out of my way to consider Jesse Strader necessarily UFC level, really. I don't really feel that. I think that should be fairly one-sided. And of course, I mean, you know the side that I like here. I'm on the side of Chad Anheliger winning. Definitely with the UFC locks value side, you might have to parlay things up. But the Bellator locks coming up, I think, get a little bit juicier and a little bit more value in one of them. Actually, one of them is not so juicy. But I'm going to start it off with the nicer one. It's Said Salma. He, I really think, should be able to clearly beat Davion Franklin. More experienced guy in Salma, proven game. Beating Vitaly Minakov is a huge win. Regardless of how it ended with the weird timeout injury thing, Salma was starting to win that fight. I think he could get a stoppage here. He's a minus 150 favorite. I like Said Salma money line in this matchup versus Davion Franklin a lot here. I think the value is good. The next Bellator lock of the night, and I'll be honest, I'm not going to include early prelim fights as locks of the night, minus 600s. It's only going to be the bigger fights. Andrei Koreshkov, I think he beats Chance Racontre fairly dominantly. I think he gets a stoppage as well. Minus 275 money line side of things for that matchup. I think it's potentially worth a stab. I feel like you're going to see Andrei Koreshkov let his hands fly nicely. I think that he's a pretty solid play if maybe you're parlaying things up. As far as money line with some of these Bellator fights, of course, it's not going to be necessarily fantastic value. And I mean, as I look through the Bellator card, I like hitting the dogs on Bellator. I don't necessarily want to bet too many favorites. And then if you look at the UFC card, I mean, there's other fights like that could potentially have value betting on a favorite. Maybe on the side of Jessica Rose Clark, if you played her at decent value, I do believe she should win. Diana Belbita, close money. She's a value money line style player. I'm picking her to win the fight. I do think she does get it done. You'd be running into some potential, I guess, risk. Like I don't want to call the locks of the night if I don't see them as locks of the night just because the value is good. Those are more value style bets. Let me jump over to the dog portion. Make sure you guys smash that like button and let's talk some dogs for UFC and Bellator because I think we have some fantastic ones. First dog, we're going to start with UFC. Abdul Razak Al Hassan over Joaquin Buckley. You have to respect the power that comes with Al Hassan. He hits really damn hard. I think that he can find the chin of Joaquin Buckley. Buckley hits damn hard too. It's a fight that probably doesn't go distance. Now, if I'm looking to prop things up with this fight, Al Hassan to win via knockout right now is plus 215. I think that might be the one worth the stab. I really do think he can knock out Buckley. That high kick is deadly. He showed that against Di Chirico. Di Chirico knocked out Buckley with a head kick. I'm not saying MMA math works. That doesn't matter here. Styles make fights, and I think Al Hassan's style with Buckley kind of matches up well to who lands on the chin first. I think Al Hassan could definitely be the one that finds it. I do also think Al Hassan a little bit heavier-handed than Joaquin Buckley, though Buckley definitely has knockout power too. Both knockout artists, great fight. It's not going distance. I'd be shocked if that fight does go the distance. Fight does not go the distance. The value of that is sitting at minus 275, so it's not expected to at all here. Both finishers. Next dog, I like Jim Miller as the OGs, around plus 160 best value. I know a lot of people are big on Mota, and I think he has a lot of potential, but he's making his UFC debut against the guy with the most fights in the UFC. Jim Miller's making his 39th appearance in the octagon with this fight. I don't think you can write off Jim Miller just yet. He looked good in the last one. He gives guys difficult fights. We haven't seen enough about Mota. I'm going Jim Miller underdog. If I had to give you a prop, I'm thinking maybe Jim Miller by submission. Value of Miller submission, plus 350. Crazy. The knockout side for Jim Miller, plus 1100. He doesn't get knockouts often, but he did get it in his last fight. Inside distance, plus 180. I'll definitely lean towards the submission side. I like plus 350, win by submission, and I like Jim Miller to pull off an upset here against Nicholas Mota, but certainly I could see Mota also getting the stoppage win, knocking him out, but Miller's such a difficult guy to put away. I think if Mota doesn't get him out in the first round and a half, I think Miller starts to take over and definitely can work towards a submission. The next one, a lot of people have been against me here, but I think Gabriel Benitez is live versus David Onama. Onama's damn good, and he's a big prospect to watch. But Gabriel Benitez can still scrap with the best of them. I feel like he's going to put on a good show at the least. He's plus 135. I'm not telling you he's a lock or anything like that. Go bet it all on him. But I do think Benitez at plus 130 could come through. Thinking maybe he would win a decision, though, if they did go to that. For over 1.5, minus 145, I have to note that. I like that play a lot here on this matchup. Benitez wins via decision would be my prediction, plus 300. But of course, Onama definitely does have a chance here. It's not a 100%. I'm not doubting Onama, but I do think Benitez is a live underdog here. The next UFC underdog, Alan Baudet over Parker Porter. Now, for the picks video, I was leaning the side of Porter. It's still a bit of a toss-up fight for me. I'm feeling like Alan Baudet has a chance to win by knockout. His power is going to be real here, and if he can get Parker Porter hurt with the hands, he can get the fight done, and he can definitely cash as an underdog. Plus 235 about for Baudet wins just straight money line, but Baudet by knockout is upwards of plus 350. I think that might be one worth a stab here on him as an underdog. The UFC dogs are pretty good. But of course, the Bellator dogs are going to be interesting. You see with Bellator, man, you got to attack underdogs because their lines are just all over the place. Now, the first dog that I like for Bellator is going to be Logan Storley, plus 145. I think that he goes out there and wins a hard-fought decision over Neiman Gracie. Plus 145, decent value. I think he wins the fight. I'm picking him here. Looking at props that are available, I'll be honest, not every prop is available for Bellator, unfortunately, for this week's best MMA bets, but it is what it is. What I would like is Storley wins by decision if you were looking to prop it up, but Storley straight underdog plus 140 has some decent value. The next Bellator dog, I gotta say, Nick Brown, I feel like is being slept on a bit here by the bookies over Mandel Nalo. I think Brown can do probably the whole game. Not as technical striking than Nalo. Nalo's a sniper, but I think Brown's scrappier. I still think Brown can compete standing. I think he can mix in grappling too, plus 140. I think Nick Brown can be a nice underdog that comes through for us. I think he might be a guy worth a stab. I like Nick Brown. And then the final Bellator dog of the night. This is a real close money dog, so the value isn't going to be amazing here. It's going to be Deanna Bennett, plus 110. I think she might be worth a stab too over Justine Kish if you're just throwing a bit at her. Ladies, going after it. The Bellator card, it's a weird one, right? With Bellator in general, you look at the early prelims, there's definitely lower level MMA on it. There's huge favorites. Jordan Newman, a minus 800 favorite. You look Justin Montalvo, minus 340. And then you got Isaiah Hotkick, Theodore Makuka, 0-1 Hotkick, 1-2 Makuka. Don't bet that. I don't recommend betting any of the Bellator early prelims. Be cautious betting Bellator in general. I mean, I think Jalon Bates should win by submission over Chris DeSono, but he's a minus 800 favorite. So there's really not a ton to be cashed on that matchup. Be cautious with your plays, but I do think you could have some good success if you attack the underdogs on the Bellator betting side. Now, I do want to cover a bit of over-under props that I think have some value. Porter versus Balde. You could play that one. It's an interesting one because if it's leaning the Porter side, I feel like it goes over 1.5. But if you're leaning toward Balde, you can get under 1.5 for the value right now, sitting at plus 135. Of course, I like the Balde knockout play more, but it's an over-under worth mentioning in this spot. The next one, Onama Benitez over 1.5, minus 150. I think even if you're against Benitez, he can go over a round and a half with David Onama, and I think that's a fantastic play. Miller versus Mota, over 1.5, minus 175. I think Jim Miller can definitely survive past a round and a half. I think minus 175 could be a real casher. I don't see Miller stopping Mota before, that end of the second round. Really, if it's submission, I think he's going to have to slow Mota down a bit and survive some dangerous striking attacks, but I think there's some value there. So I have to note Miller, Mota, over under. I like. And Henniger versus Strader. This is a question mark matchup. I like Chad Henniger to win here, and I think that he is a very good lock. Could definitely be a parlay addition. As far as the over-unders, I do want to mention a potential play that you could aim towards. It could be Henniger over 1.5. I see Henniger getting the win, but I don't know if it's going to be early. I could see it being second, end of the second, third round, minus 135. Maybe worth a touch, maybe not, but I still felt it was something worth bringing up here. Now, as far as some other props that I like here, Jessica Rose Clark, I like her at plus 150 for decision. I do think that could be the play to be made on that matchup against Stephanie Egger. As far as money line for Rose Clark, she's minus 170. Not terrible. I do think she wins, but didn't want to include her in the locks. I like the decision prop more so. Belbita to win a decision over Gloria DiPaula. This is a very competitive matchup. Near pick'em's odds around minus 110 for the value of Belbita money line, but you can find decision Belbita plus 175, and I really lean her winning this fight via decision. Those are some props that I like in addition to me already covering the props for the fights as I go through, but I wanted to add a few honorable mention type props here. Let's jump to the final section, the parlays, where the money can really be made here. Of course, I like parlays with UFC. You can mix in some Bellator underdogs if your bookie allows. The first one I'll talk about is Hill Dawkins. It's our main and co-main event winners, I believe, minus 100. You like Henniger? Add him on that slate. You get plus 175 for those three. It's Hill, Dawkins, and Henniger. If you're like, listen, I'm not craving at Henniger, but I see Al Hassan could get the knockout. Plus 340 for Hill, Dawkins, and Al Hassan. I think that might be worth a stab. If you're like, hey man, I'm not an Al Hassan guy, I'm on the Buckley side, but you like Bellator too, and you want to mix around some things, you could potentially play with Hill, Dawkins, and Storley at around plus 385 money. I don't think that's necessarily bad. You can get some good plus on that one. If you like Al Hassan, maybe Storley, Koreshkov, you want to mix around plus 540 range. There's a lot of ways you can play it, but let's say you really want to get nuts and you want to really attack and you're like, listen, I need a parlay that's going to give me a lottery ticket. I'm not expecting it to come through, but it could. Al Hassan, Hill, and Henniger, Storley, Koreshkov, Brown, plus 2,000. That would be the real Hail Mary of the week. Now, if some of you are like, listen, I just want to play with Bellator parlay, I'm going to give you a Bellator only parlay that I'm going to add on to here. I feel like you have to have Salma in your lineup. I think you go Koreshkov. That's plus 110 for this, just those two. If you're feeling me in the main event with the Storley side, it's plus 420. I think that's a good number. I think that's good value. Plus 420, definitely something that might be worth a stab there. Be cautious with those earlier fights in Bellator. Please, guys, I'm really going to preach it. Be very cautious with Bellator prelims, especially the early prelims. It could be cash burners. The main card is where I feel a lot more confidence on that side. I think there's definitely some plays you could make if you're feeling like, listen, I don't want Storley at the top, but I want Salma and Koreshkov from Bellator parlayed up with some UFC guys. You could go Jamal Hill plus 195. If you add that, you're like, give me Dawkins 2 plus 295. I think there's value right there. And if you're with me on Henheliger, you have that feeling that he's going to dominate, plus 445. And Henheliger, Dawkins, Hill, Koreshkov, Salma, 5-fighter parlay. Overall, I think there's some fun parlays to play. There's some good potential bets to be made. I hope you guys enjoyed another episode of this week's Best MMA Bets. Make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn those post notifications on, keep it locked in right here at MMA Experts. Much love, my people, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.